Last week we got Longlegs, which was a serial killer mystery, and this week we get another murder mystery. And while Longlegs was taking up everybody's anticipation, all of the hype, all of the marketing attention, there was a movie in the background most people have probably never heard of that's just creeping along to its release date this week, and it is legitimately scary, and it's called Oddity. Now, Oddity is a strange film. It's a Shudder exclusive directed by Damian McCarthy, the guy who brought us Caveat, and that's a movie I had a lot of fun with. So going into this one, I was kind of excited he was doing another movie. But I didn't know a whole lot about it going into it, and I will say it's one of those movies I always give you the heads up. Best to experience when you don't know anything about it going into it. So I'm going to be pretty vague in this review. Now, the opening scene of this one was pretty intense, and I think it was memorable. It follows this woman. She's home alone at night. And for many reasons, obviously, it's creepy for a woman to be home alone at night. She doesn't have her husband there. He's at work. She just doesn't feel comfortable being around this very dark and isolated house with nobody around. And during that night, this very creepy guy, looks kind of homeless, has a glass eye. He's just super unsettling. Knocks on the door and he says, he's just begging her. He's like, you need to leave the house. Somebody's in the house. I saw them sneak in from afar and they're hiding. They're waiting for me to leave. Like they know I saw them. They're just waiting. And she doesn't believe this guy. She kind of does. She's just torn. She's like, do I believe this guy? It's a very creepy atmosphere. He keeps begging her, please leave the house. And from that point on, after the opening scene, you're going to meet a bunch of strange characters, a bunch of strange things are going to occur, a bunch of weird objects. There's going to be so many moving pieces. I'll keep it simple as that with the opener. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this one. And it just goes a very creative route, in my opinion, something I think definitely stood out amongst the movies I've seen this year. Now, I need to address something in the opening when I mentioned Longlegs. Now, there's a quote I really like. Comparison is the thief of joy. I really liked Longlegs, so it's not a direct comparison. There's a lot of conversation about that film. Is it scary? Is it not? Like, it's a psychological horror movie. There's so much discussion. Oddity is traditionally scary, and I know that. Like, I don't get scared by films. I've seen so many. What do you think? I'm new to this. But in all seriousness, even though things don't actually scare me, I'm able to identify when a movie has elements that would scare a lot of people. Some of my relatives, some of my friends. This movie has a lot of them. So if you're a fan of traditional scary movies, not elevated horror, not something that's going to dig up your trauma, just things that are going to get your heart rate racing, jump scares, they're going to get you afraid of the dark, looking around the corner for something jumping out, this is the movie for you this year. Because going off of that comparison, I thought Oddity had a lot more scary elements than Longlegs did, and people were losing their shit over that movie. So if you like scary movies, please go support this movie in the theaters. Now, with that being said, again, there is a lot more to this film than just the traditional scares, the jumps and all of that. There's a lot more going on. There's a lot more story. There's some build-up. There's more layers and depth to this movie. There's some supernatural elements. It zigs and it zags. It twists a couple of times. So it'll keep you on the edge of your seat trying to figure this mystery out all the way to the last scene. But that's not really why I liked it. Why I really like this is it really feels like the director is somebody who understands and appreciates what the average horror fan thinks and expects in these movies. Like, he's designed this thing to take advantage of your expectations, where he sets up things where, you feel like you've seen this 100 times. You've seen these tropes. You feel like it's a pretty generic movie, because you'll notice something and go, oh, I know how this is going to end. I've seen that before. And it won't end like that. He'll swap it up. And that's what I really appreciate. It really feels like he's using your expectations against you, the tropes you think you're going to realize. And I was caught off guard a couple of times, and I'm not an easy audience for that because I watch so many horror movies. The fact that I was kind of thrown off at a couple points, that is a huge positive. As I just said, this movie does have some build-up, so some people might find it slow, especially at the beginning. It takes about 30 or 40 minutes to really get kicking, but I don't have a problem with that. I always prefer story and substance over just nothing and jump scares, so I didn't mind it personally. And what really keeps me engaged with a movie like this when it tells its story is a lot of the details the director and the cinematographer have in keeping you engaged in the set that it's going on in. The lighting, the ambience, the sound design, there's so many good elements to a horror movie that are just done perfectly in this. It really gets you engaged, even in very basic scenes, just conversations, the way the camera shifts. I really love the score and the music of this movie when it really, hits you with the loud bangs, when there's some scares, the build-up, suspenseful pieces, the violins. There's a lot of elements in this. It's one of those things where even if you don't love this movie at the end of the day, I think anybody who likes scary movies will feel like their time is justified because there's enough good elements to this film. You'll walk away thinking there were good things to it, even if you didn't like the whole. So that's a little bit of a safeguard if you are on the fence about seeing this thing. Now, the real reason this film kind of stands out to me and I'm singing its praises is because I've reviewed and I've watched a lot of horror movies this year, especially on this channel. But out of all the ones I've reviewed, the theater experiences I've had, this is definitely the most scary experience I've had, like in terms of unnerving me, making me tense on the edge of my seat. I'm a hard audience when it comes to getting scared. I watch so many movies, I'm just desensitized. This movie got me about 4 or 5 times pretty damn good. I'm not going to lie. And that's, I love a good jump scare. That's a controversial take. They're so overused now, but I love a good jump scare that really gets me like, oh shit, like I didn't see that coming. This movie got me about 4 or 5 times really well. And the thing that's kind of interesting about it is I knew it was coming every time. Well, I was like, oh, this is the buildup, this is the scare. And I still jumped out of my shit my pants. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you watch this movie, you know it's coming, but the setup and the execution and the sound is so effective. No matter who you are and how seasoned you are, they're going to get you, I promise. As I said a couple of minutes ago, some people might find this boring and slow building up to it, or they might think the story is confusing, complicated. I did not. I thought it was creative. Even though there is a lot of ambiguity to it, I thought it was good. I was engaged the whole time, but I was really sold at the final scene. In the final scene, you spend it with this character, and it kind of harpens back to something that happened early in the film. And he's presented with this scenario or a question, whatever you want to call it, that he has to deal with. As the viewer, you're kind of watching him, and this movie is, it's very open to interpretation in some ways. There's some ambiguity to it. So you're watching him handle this scenario. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But as the viewer, because of how you can interpret what's been going on, you're really not sure how you would respond in issues because it's kind of a confusing scenario and it can go a couple of ways. So I thought it was genius in how it engages you as the audience to sit and think like, I don't know if I would agree or disagree with what he's doing because of what we've seen. So it really sold me. I enjoyed it for the most part entirely, but that was the scene that really sold me on how much I like this movie, and it guaranteed I will buy it one day. July is just on an absolute heater. I don't think I've seen a bad movie in theaters all month. Great to see Shudder actually releasing something original that's good again. But yeah, it's the most traditionally scary movie I've seen all year in theaters. If you like scary movies, you want to get, on the edge of your seat, jump a little bit, go check this out. I think it's worth supporting. It's interesting enough. Have any of you guys heard or seen Oddity yet? Comment down below, let me know, or let me know if you've seen Caveat and you like that. I really enjoyed it personally. As always, if you haven't subscribed, what the hell are you waiting for? I do it all on this channel. New releases, scary stuff, tier list rankings. Join me down below. We'd love to have you. That's all I got in this video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.